This is the last video, and I'm going to list the people that were involved in this dark covet of witches and warlocks and just deceitful thievery of individuals in the justice system. HUD, Code Enforcement, the Police Department, Sheriff Department, the United States Postal Service, civilians in the community. All of these people were involved and became a part of this criminal network. It stemmed from Elizabeth Wilson and Yusuf Ingleston and Passion Flowers. The management team in Burlington Capital / Twin Canal Village. As I stated those three names, the few more employees of the maintenance group were Christopher Newsom, Michael Newsom Sr. I don't have the rest of their names, but they're in the videos of a few other guys that I wasn't able to get their names. They wouldn't reveal anyone's name, which you'll hear that video as well. Okay, so the tenant over top of our apartment was Geneva Gilchrist. The corporate manager was Taika Williams, which they call Ty Williams, that was straight up on board with the criminal corruption. She was not even, didn't have any open communication with the tenants until I contacted HUD enforcement. HUD subsidized housing, HUD Associates, which she, at that point made herself available, but it was short-lived, very short-lived. I'm literally talking about maybe a month or two, and then her position was changed, and it was just a bunch of nonsense. Then Yolanda Borres, I believe that was the young lady that was named on the medical documents of my sisters that I've never heard of or seen. Tiffany Williams, another Burlington Capital corporate associate. Yolanda Borres, another person of Burlington Capital that was signature was on a document. Now we're going to get with the attorney of Burlington Capital, was G. Manoli L. Lopez, the attorney that I really don't believe was a real attorney by his unprofessionalism and the actual presence. His presence was just very, very strange and odd. Okay, and Carrie S. Schmids, or Schmids, I probably are pronouncing it wrong, SCHMID. She also was a Burlington Capital corporate associate that is, her name is on one of the documents. I believe the one that was stating that I could not have the maintenance full name without an attorney. Now we're going to get with the HUD subsidized housing employees. Barbara Braxby Walmack was the head of finances. That was the last person that I spoke with that I was directed to as being the supervisor of Tim Shears and what was the other lady's name? Cindy something. I didn't even include her because I only spoke with her a few times at the beginning, and she had just recently started working with HUD. It was new to her, so she really didn't know anything, but that's who they gave me. So, and then Marcia L. Fudge, the secretary of HUD, which no longer, she retired, I believe in last year of March, I believe, but there, I have an article. I downloaded an article, and I probably will put that up later on regarding her and her lack, or what is the word, defiance of giving her email address, or a fictitious email address for the public to be able to address her. She refused, and they wrote an article on her refusal to, keep communications open. Who else? We're going to go with the police department. No, the code enforcement. Francis. I think this is the police department. This is the police department. Francis Emerson. Frank Curiot, or something like that. Cindy Mapstone, the person in the video where pretty much dismissed me when I was trying to get information on applying for my police report. Okay, Paul Noonagate. I believe he was captain. I don't know if he still is or not, but he was the captain. And next, Kenny Whitley was the code enforcement man in the video. D. Withington was named on the document. R. Dowley was also on the team of the code enforcement. Now we're going to go with the Virginia Beach justice system. This was the chief judge that pretty much signed off and allowed all of this criminal, and was one of the head, pretty much the head person to sign off on the money laundering and the criminal thievery, was James C. Lewis. He was the chief of police. I just found out when I went online yesterday that he's no longer chief judge. He's been demoted, but that's very odd because I have not been I have never received any communications from any officials from day one, and I've been filing complaints about this whole ordeal since 2021 with the with HUD, code enforcement, the courts, the police department, all of them, with the Attorney General Jason S. Miyares, Every last one of them. All of these public officials that are in positions to protect and serve, every last one of them dismissed me, didn't, it was all obvious that it was a collaboration because none of the complaints were investigated with documentation, videos, copies of emails, all of the same thing that is online, they received a long time ago. And I have not had one person other than the Secretary of HUD sending the letter that you have that's another copy online within the documents. You'll be able to read it. Other than her sending a response of really no help, she didn't, do anything. So all of these people were involved. And James C. Lewis, of course, directed other judges, Elizabeth S. Foster and Stephen C. I think it's Manhan. He's a judge. That's the one that held me in the courtroom for 2 hours in reference to the escrow. It was very, very, just blatantly, what is the word? On board with the criminal activity. It shouldn't have taken 2 hours. I was the only one sitting in the court while he was doing paperwork. After the, I guess she's called the secretary or the clerk that sits beside the judge. When I first was directed over there for reasons I'm not even going to say why I went from one courtroom to another. First of all, James Lewis didn't show up for the court hearing on the Friday. It was a Friday. They called it a Friday Friday notice or something like that. But he wasn't available, so I went in front of a judge, which sent me to another court, which Stephen C. Mahan was the judge that I went before. But the young lady whispered in his ear when we first got in there. And I'm positive what she whispered was why I was directed over there. Anyway, he called himself being in power and making me sit for 2 hours just behind an escrow payment, which at the end of the day, they had already distributed a year prior amongst, themselves. But I'm sure he contacted Judge Lewis and explained that I was there, or he already knew I was there because I was supposed to go in front of him. So anyway, and Elizabeth S. Foster was the last judge, which was so nasty and just dismissive, and it was so blatantly obvious that they had already planned the whole entire little act, because as soon as I opened my mouth, she was very, very nasty and rude. I don't like your attitude. Do you know what contempt is? And the only thing I said was, I am on the lease. Then when I gave her all of the packet of the lease and the power of attorney and all that, if you guys had seen how she just flipped through the papers all fast and nasty. What is this? I don't know what this is. Blah, blah, not looking at not one page. So after she flipped the pages in the just unprofessional and defiant, and it was so obvious that you had already planned this act because it was uncalled for. If you are in a position of a judge and you're supposed to do the correct and just process, what was all that for? When the evidence was in your hand, but you blatantly chose, before I even stepped or opened my mouth, that you had already made your deal behind closed doors. So Elizabeth S. Foster, another judge, and the clerk, or the head clerk of court, Tina E. Simmons, was heavily involved because her hands and signature touched all of these court documents, or her name was on them, as you will see. David M. Odell, I believe his name was on the escrow that was sent, prior to me going to court getting one of the escrow payments. His name was on the check that was sent to Burlington Capital that we weren't aware of. And Samantha Jenkins as well, name was on court documents. And then last but not least, Michael B. Yaney is the owner of Burlington Capital. I have not received a response from any of these people. And all of them have been served conditional acceptance contracts from me and had the opportunity to justify all of their actions. But not one. Even Jason, Attorney General Jason S. Mieres, he was on board with them as well, constantly stating in written documents that he had no, it wasn't his department to handle a landlord-tenant case. But this wasn't just a landlord-tenant case, because he's been shown all the evidence of a collaboration of corporations, the courts, code enforcement, HUD, the Postal Service, Burlington Capital's employees, as well as corporate, code enforcement. It's too much evidence to dismiss and to think that you're just going to control the narrative of this corruption. They had totally a delusional mindset when they chose to come against me, because it was obvious how it was so obvious to me. Their actions spoke louder than words, that they were involved in criminal activity, and they had been involved in it for a while because they were too cocky. They were too right in your face, and what are you going to do about it? Laughing and giggling right in my face. and so just blatantly disrespectful and unlawful, inhumane, just bullies and tyrants at a high position, like they were the mafia. And what are you going to do about it? So these aren't even the only ones. These are the ones that I know of that put their names on documents, or I went before. But there were other people that Elizabeth Wilson brought into the fold as well. I had the upstairs tenant that was told by them and to me in letter form that they weren't going to do anything about. We can't tell a tenant that their kids can't play. I know the difference in playing and causing a disturbance 24/7. So she was given the power to disrupt me, and I'm pretty positive that she was told that they Miss Flowers and whoever, Miss Elizabeth Wilson, it's probably her, because she was running the show. Passion Flowers was just placed there to be a puppet, or to take that management position so they could switch the blame off on her. But as you can see in the video, she had very, very little say-so. The maintenance staff, especially Yusuf Ingelston, had her in control. He would stand in my face and say, tell her this and tell her that. And, she really had very, very little power over the staff. And she was the youngest and obviously unexperienced in her field. But there also were the upstairs tenant, and that was Geneva Gilchrist. But then they falsely evicted my neighbor across from us, and she definitely has a lawsuit against them because it was just bogus why they evicted her. But the purpose of her eviction was to place the young man and lady that you see in the videos at my door, stealing my package, doing voodoo or witchcraft or whatever they want to call it, right at my door, or in the presence, causing the whole entire hallway to fog up because you are carrying entities or whatever is wrapped around your leg. I'm sure there are technology that can take that video and do what they need to do to pull it out of whatever was attached to him or whatever he had bringing in his unit. But it was all tactics. They brought him and her in to do the witchcraft that they thought was going to, destroy me or kill me, because death threats came as well. And I was aware, but they had no idea that I wasn't only aware, but I was covered. And there wasn't any type of witchcraft or voodoo that they could throw at me that would end my life. And that's what they were trying to do. On December the 30th, December the 31st of 2022, I was attacked with a death, what do they call it, death spell, where it attacked my heart. And it was a sudden, it was very sudden, sharp pain. And as soon as it happened, it startled me. But my father, y'all have no idea. If you do, you understand what I'm saying. He sent my angels, and when my legs buckled, they lifted me up like feathers were on my arms. And it was an instant understanding of my position and what I needed to stand on, and I did. That that experience taught me so much about the love of God and how much He loves me, and also my own strength and power to overcome evil, evilness right in your life, in your face, trying to control and end your life with this black magic. And don't get me wrong, their tactics has worked in the past, and a lot of people have used this type of practice and attacked people, and it worked. But it doesn't work on everyone. It doesn't work on a person like me that has a gift, that has a purpose, because God put me here for a reason. He even put me in the situation for a reason. So whoever thinks that they're going to go up against God's plan, they're so in a warped mindset and delusional mindset that Satan has them in, because it's worked in the past. They've taken people's lives, and they've destroyed people's minds and all that, but it was never going to work with me, because I knew at the beginning that I was dealing with demonic entities that had taken over people's body and mind, and that it was willfully allowed. They allowed that entity and that wickedness within themselves, because God will never allow the devil to have his way without us having the will. He gives all of us the will to do right or wrong, to accept him or accept Satan or whatever you call it. They don't have power like Satan does not have power like that. You have to be willing to allow that entity or that spirit to enter into you. If you're weak, if you're a non-believer, if you're evil anyway, or whatever the case is, you had to willfully allow it to overpower you. But I would not let a demon or devilish people overpower me, when I know that my Father holds all the power. Who am I going to? Come on now. Anyone with common sense, but there's millions of people out here with no common sense, as we can witness every day. Why would I go on the losing team? You got to be crazy, and you got to be more careful on who you choose to attack. But it was all in divine order. God knew what they were going to do before I even got there. And he also knew what I was going to do. That's why I'm still here. Because they've tried multiple times to end my life. But when Miss Wilson called me, it was in 2021, and asked me if Michelle and I had life insurance. Spirit had already told me. Why would I told her, excuse me, I'm going to have to give you a call back. But my spirit had already told me, okay, why? There's only one reason why a person of any authority would ask that question when they had no reason to ask it. Then the spell work and the voodoo and the witchcraft and all this craziness going around me, you know, someone that is gifted and listens to their spirit is always going to be 10 steps ahead of what's to come. So I already knew. I mean, everything connects and adds up. It don't all happen at one time because you wouldn't learn the lesson. So you have to go through the fire in the lion's den. You have to go through it. You have to understand that. You have to go through all of that pain and suffering and backstabbing and betrayal and just, you have to go through that evilness, but you have to also understand it's for a higher purpose. It wasn't just about me. I knew that from the beginning because it was too blatantly evil in my face from day one. So I knew, I said, this is bigger than me. God, I know that you placed me here for a purpose because these people are evil to the core. But I didn't know at the beginning that it was this deep. I am not kidding you. I went to a place in space that I never imagined that I would ever have to be in. The wickedness and evilness that was coming at me at one time from several entities all around me at one time. I did not expect that. You expect, one person or a few people or whatever, but this was much bigger. I'm like, for this to be this intense, it has to be way, the purpose of it is way much bigger than just me, just little old me. I knew it was a larger purpose, and I kept saying, for them to do this to me for no reason, it was premeditated. And it was very, very obvious. But they kept thinking, I guess in their delusional mind, well, she knows what we did because we did it to her. But we're going to convince everyone else that we didn't do it and make her, into a crazy person because we're going to throw all of this craziness at her and around her and do all these heinous things and make her give up. And block her from getting any help, through every means necessary. And that's what they did. But they had no idea. When you don't know God or his power, I guess you would do things like this. I don't know, because I don't walk in the dark. But I'm just assuming and going on what I know about what Satan done behind did. So these people were doing stuff so sloppy and so blatant, and most of the time they knew I had a camera on them. I had my phone right there. Sometimes they probably didn't, but they were so focused on doing their intent. When they were around me, or they came for a purpose, their intent. So they really didn't, I guess, pay any attention. But there are several videos that you can witness that they knew I had my phone camera on, and they still did things right blatantly in my face. And they thought that because they have used, this judge and the police department to do all this criminal activity of illegal acts that they did against me and other people, because trust me, it was definitely not just about me. These people have been doing this to whoever they chose to do it to in their positions. Elizabeth Wilson used her position as a manager or as an office staff to steal and violate and break several laws. Her and Yusuf Ingelston have committed multiple crimes, unfathomable crimes. I mean, when everything comes out, people are going to be in disbelief. But I really don't understand why people are going to be in such disbelief, because they see it on TV, they see it right in their face, really, but they, I guess, are afraid or don't have they don't, I don't know if they don't care. I don't know what their thoughts are on why they would allow someone to just blatantly treat them less than a human being. But they chose to come after me. So that's all I know, is y'all came after the wrong one. I'm the kindest, loving person they could have ever been in the presence of. But they had no idea the gifts that God has given me from birth, so I already knew their spirit when they first came in my presence. Or I talked to them on the phone. I don't even have to be, you don't even have to be in my presence for me to know. All that soft talking and niceness and all that doesn't matter. You can cloak it with the average person that doesn't have a relationship with God, or doesn't follow their spirit and just follows the orchestrated mask of corruption and infiltrated crap that society and people in power have planted in everyone's mind. But you have to, if you're anywhere close to being a believer in Christ and knowing the love and why he died for our sins. If you even just don't know every word in the Bible, because I definitely don't, but I don't follow just the word, I follow the Spirit. I don't follow just words that a man has written, regardless if they're all correct and incorrect. That's not what, one of the reasons why he sacrificed his life for us. The Holy Spirit was one thing that he gave us, a gift, and that was to communicate with him and with each other through the Holy Spirit. And people either don't know or are afraid, or I don't know. I can't even try to get in get in anyone else's head, because that's not my purpose. My purpose is to have a relationship with him and have the blessing of being able to communicate with him or my spirit team through the Spirit. And that's what gift he has given me. And that's all I know and care about at this point. Everybody else has to get on the same page, or, you've made your own choice. He's given you an open book test, you know, so there's really no excuse on why you didn't complete the journey. I'm going to complete it. Just like they chose to come after me and to try to control my life and every aspect of my life through their demonic sorcery, you know, practices, and their evil-minded tactics, and their group of people in positions that they thought that they could, you know, manipulate this whole thing. But it's not going to end well for these people. And God is going to make them an example. And he's trying to wake up the mask in the world, you know, to understand that who are you serving? You can't possibly say that you're serving me and you're allowing Satan to run your life and rule your life when you have said that I am, you know, your master, your teacher, your healer, and all that, but you're giving everything to Satan, basically. How cute of a package he may come in, or whatever position that they hold. No one holds a higher position than the Most High God. So whenever you guys get that wrapped around your head and walk in truth and faith and not in fear, because fear doesn't come from God, it comes from Satan. He makes you aware when to remove yourself, or if he has to step in and block something. Trust me, doesn't mean that you're not going to be sought after with intent to harm. It doesn't mean that. But that doesn't mean that you're supposed to be frightened and run the other way and turn your back on God. That means you get your armor on, strap them boots up, and you listen to whatever he tells you to do. Whether he tells you to move, sit still, speak, keep your mouth closed, listen, document things, videotape things, whatever. Speak the truth is the most important thing. So he allowed these people to build all of this evidence against themselves. It's really, really ironic, isn't it? Whatever was hidden from me, or whatever they planned and orchestrated and falsified and lied and you know, all of these things that they've done will be revealed. Some of it has been revealed, but there's a lot that I have been you know, blocked from knowing or receiving. But I also know that as well. I'm not going to give everything away in explaining this, but all of these people have to stand on everything that they chose to do. They were very bold in their actions. Very, very bold. So I don't want them, since they were so bold and thought they were in power, I want to see how powerful they are when they can stand on what they've done. Against me, my sister, and a very, very huge amount of other people that have no idea what they're even, why they're going through what they're going through, or the ones that have been treated with injustice through Elizabeth Wilson and Ingleston and Passion Flowers, because I've witnessed in court the injustice that they have caused upon people just because they think that they have power over other people's lives. It does not work that way. So whether they knew who I was before they planned this whole hate crime against me, it was just pure hate. There's no other word for it. Evilness and hate, heartless and fallen angels and soulless, beings. And people have to understand this is a part of the world. This is a part of society. Stop acting like it's a shock that this has gone on, because it's happening every day, especially in the justice system. It's no secret. But I was the one that was their karma, this point blank. So they picked the right one. So I'm going to end this, and the other videos will follow. But I just want the world to know God is real. And He is here for the world. But you have to accept Him in your heart and in your life. And if you've never done it, and if you're walking in the dark, on the dark side, it's never too late. He will forgive you. It's never too late. Now, what you have to do to get in His good graces out, that's up to Him. I have no understanding of that part, but I know that if you ask for forgiveness and repent your sins, He will forgive you. I'm pretty sure you ain't gonna get a pat on your hand and you come on in the pearly gates, or you're forgiven that easily. You still have to reap what you sow. And that's the first thing I told Elizabeth Wilson on the first court date. The first time we went to court, she called herself, I guess, waiting around because the rest of them flew out of there. But when my sister and I were going through the foyer of the courtroom, she was in the midst right then, held the door for us. Not saying a word, but I spoke. And I looked right in her face and said, you know what? You will reap what you sow, because this is far from being over. She had just walked in that courtroom with a poker face and lied like it was nothing. Said that the judge even saw through it. And she said, I'm going to ask you in a different way. Would you have rented this unit to Michelle Owens by herself? And she said, yes. I just shook my head, because she couldn't have never received the apartment in the handicapped unit without an aide. I wouldn't have never had to fill out those forms from her, that came from them to her doctor. In her making the statement, it has to state that she has to have an aide. But it was very obvious she could never live on her own. So they lied way before the court date. They lied and deceived and committed a heinous crime against me and my sister from the beginning. Everything was false. The unsanitized and unsafe apartment unit that they that they gave us, everything was premeditated. It's very obvious. There's no way around it. There's no justification. There is nothing that these people can say to justify their actions. That's just point blank and bottom line. And they need to be held accountable. And these are criminal, federal crimes that they have committed on top of spiritual crimes. That's when God drew the line, when Miss Wilson decided to use her bag of tricks of witchcraft. She even attacked me on the last court date while I was sitting right there in courtroom. And when after the court was dismissed, I walked right up to her and said, every spell that you have sent me is being returned back to you. You cannot take me out or down or cause me to turn my back on my Father and interrupt the connection that I have with him. She crossed the line, and that's why this is not going to end well. God is not pleased. This is this is a major violation of humanity. A major violation when anyone interferes in another person's spirit realm, the sacred space that only you and the Most High are privy to. You've crossed the line when you try to tamper in that area of anyone's life. You have crossed the line, and there's no return from that. There's no coverage over what she has done and others that it joined in with her. There's no return. She has no coverage. I don't know what she or the ones that were the the group of witches and warlocks that chose this type of lifestyle. I don't know what their punishment is going to be, but I know it's not good. I know that they have no coverage or no protection from God. At this point, they don't. What they choose to do later on is between them and God. But I know at this day, on this day, none of them have coverage. Because coming after me was the last straw. They've done it to several people, but I was placed there for a purpose. And everything that they have done was very, very foul. Very, very foul. It took me a long time to even review the videos that I had made from 2020 to 2022. It took me months to even be able to look at the videos. That's how heart-wrenching it was. But God healed my spirit and allowed me to continue through this tragic ordeal. He showed me how to be strong and stand through his love and protection. At this point, I have no choice but to finish it. Not only because I know that's what my purpose is, but I have to understand that this is about the Most High first. And then secondly, it's about loving myself and my self-worth. I don't give a damn if no one on this planet loves me or feels that I'm worthy of whatever. as long as I know and I stand up for myself against whomever. I don't care what your position is. No one has the right to judge or feel that they have power over anyone's life. Remember, please remember, people of this world, please remember to never allow someone to take your power, take your joy, take your sanity, take your safety, take your anything from you. That it doesn't belong to them. Just because they think they have money, power, and control. Trust me, they don't. And that's getting ready to be shown. Again, this isn't the first time that this has been done. This definitely hasn't been the first time that corruption and evil and wickedness has been done. It's been done even before Jesus walked the earth, the voodoo and witchcraft. And don't believe the hype when they say, don't Google it and find out where it started, because you're going to get a falsehood there. Do your research with a professional that has done his research. Because this stuff is not just coming from Africa for sure. Every nationality dibbles and dabbles in this evilness. It doesn't always have to be lighting candles and drinking blood and sacrificing animals and all that. It can just be people speaking evil, wickedness upon someone else. That's a form of witchcraft too. And it's and actually, witchcraft is not a bad thing if you use it in the light. You go to church and light a candle and pray for people. They go in their sacred place, light a candle and pray against people. It's the same thing, but they're using it for evil. God has given all of us gifts to be in a spiritual space, but not for evil. He didn't give that to anyone to use for evil. So when you think that you hear about voodoo and witchcraft, that it's a nonsense, it's not. It's real. Do your homework. I don't want you to go through it yourself. Most people do and don't even know it. When they have people around them that acting like they're for them, but as soon as they turn their backs, they're against them, talking about them or doing evil things towards them. That's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. So, enough of that. But I hope that everyone gets an understanding of what this world is a part of, what we're going through and what really is supposed to happen. But what are you going to do about it? You know, not just about my situation, but your own and others, and the injustice that you witness on a daily basis. If you are a part of it, or if you have seen it, you're going to be held accountable for not doing anything about it. Believe me. Just because you weren't a part of it, but you witnessed it and you didn't say anything, do anything, you will be held accountable for it. And with that being said, you all have a blessed evening, and go in your quiet place and reflect and talk to the Most High. He's the only one that can give you the answers that you need. Okay, good night.